Ma'am, you've attached a listing of all of the medical that you're requesting, correct?
That's correct.
Was this all of it?
That's all the over a year unpaid stuff. Correct.
Okay. The reason that I'm asking is because according to your numbers in 20, and I noticed the judge granted this to be reviewed, and something has happened with all those reviews. So you're stuck in this position. But my math shows that in 2020, you're asking for $206 worth. 2021, it's $37. 2022, it's 162. 2023, it's $1,488.99. And 2024 is $2,639.56. Is that correct?
I had it totaled to be
No,
like,
I got to do it year by year. And
okay,
there's a reason, and I'll explain that.
yeah, no,
Okay.
that's okay. I can
Yeah.
total them individually currently if that would be
Okay.
helpful.
Well, I did that. That's why I'm asking if my numbers sound okay, because here's how this works. You've seen the child support order that was entered, correct?
That's correct.
All right. For every in there is an ordinary medical expense.
Correct.
That's a $908. Okay,
Correct.
that he pays his portion of up front. Okay.
Correct.
So you have to hit $908 before you get reimbursement.
I understand that.
Okay. So in 2020, you only hit 206, and that doesn't even come close to 908.
No, I've already submitted everything that all the medical expenses to friend of the court and was paid for them. These are ones that were outstanding over a year. So typically I will submit them to friend of the court.
Yeah.
They have him pay them, and then in they're over a year, I have to file a motion. So for example, currently he
So,
still owes me just over $1,000 from the last stuff I submitted to friend of the court. That is something that they will facilitate without a motion
right. They normally facilitate this, so I'm trying to figure out why this is extraneous.
because it's over a year. So they will only facilitate dates under a year.
Because I don't have the proof of the 908 that's already been accomplished.
So historically, because this is not the first time this has happened, what they
Right.
request is simply that you issue a request that friend of the court
Which
review
I
it.
did, and neither one of you cooperated with.
Can you explain further?
But yeah, the front of the court terminated the review this was sent to by the judge
Can I
because
explain why?
neither one of you cooperated with it.
That's not correct. I paid the amount.
Okay.
The other party failed to pay the amount. So we received notification that it had been canceled because
John,
the
what
other
the
party
hell? Why didn't
didn't
you
pay.
pay your amount?
Um,
Because this would
I,
have all been taken care of because that's what this was sent for.
I understand. I believe that I had paid my amount when we were in court last time. We agreed on a number and I paid it that day to Miss Burns.
Paid what? Wait, are we talking about the
I,
medical expense or the front of the court expense?
the medical expense,
What did you
which
pay her?
I don't have those facts in front of me. I mean,
Really? I mean,
yeah,
that's why we're here. Did you pay it by check?
yeah, this was like a year ago. Listen, I'm willing to pay whatever is necessary. It's just I don't know what is necessary at this point.
Well, if I added all this up, um, well, I did it year by year because since I didn't have the underlying 900, I had no choice.
The total
Um,
is just under 3,000.
um, let's see. The total is $2,533.55. Your portion is 64%, sir. So the total would be 1,621.
I have a different total unless I added it up.
What's your total?
$2,969.55.
Okay, what am I missing?
There should have been 4 pages of expensive.
Yeah, there were.
Okay.
That's how I got the numbers for each individual
Okay.
year.
I could have added. I did it before the Zoom
Well,
call quickly. So
actually, I think I only have, no, I do have 4 pages. Let me, I'd rather spend a couple extra minutes this morning than to have to give you guys a hearing and take off work again. And is the child no longer in speech therapy, or is he still in speech? The child's in speech therapy still.
he still is. And this is my frustration, Your Honor, is that I pay out of pocket,
Right.
$100 a week. And I've repeatedly asked him to help. And I have multiple proof texts of me requesting him to pay his payment. And unfortunately, I have to continue to burden the court because he
Do you send him the bills, copies of
I
the bills?
do. Yep. These ones over a year, there was different issues with correct receipts, friends of the court. And to be completely transparent, it gets frustrating having to do it this way, and it takes forever. And so sometimes I am late, with friend of the court, and that's where I have this extensive list.
All right, what was your number, ma'am?
$2,969.55.
Yep. All right, 2,900. That was okay. That's what I got. So that would be $1,893, sir. Have you talked to the providers? Some providers, if you give them a copy of your judgment, they will automatically bill out the appropriate portion.
Hmm.
You can ask the provider, and then John would get his own bill, and then he would know what he had to pay.
Sure. Historically, in the past, if the bill wasn't paid, then my child wouldn't receive services.
Right. Well, and again, you have to hit the $908 first for the year.
Yeah.
So that's the other problem. And then it's done year by year. That's why I broke it down by year.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your questions, sir? Because you said you're willing to pay it. That's why I went on.
Yeah, I am willing to pay it. I don't have the money to pay it right now, so there has to be some sort of way we can do payments or something. I mean, I don't have $1,800 laying around to just hand over.
Yeah, normally, well, she's got to come up with this up front. So, and this is after insurance. What I normally do is I can't add it to the arrearage, which means the front of the court will automatically collect it for you, Ms. Burns.
Historically, they like the current stuff, like what he currently owes me is is over $1,000, and they can only add it to be $25 a month, is my understanding. But stuff over a year, my understanding is it can be more than that.
They're not allowed to touch stuff over a year, but I can put it in the arrearage, and that way it's collectible and it stays there. That way they'll keep track of it. So I'll put the $1,893 into the arrearage, and that way they collect it over time.
Okay.
right.
My last remaining question is, because I've had to continue to file motions for this. This is now the second time I've had to pay motion fees out of pocket because he was, I was the one who paid the friend of the court. I followed all of the rules. He failed to do that. They issued a appeal. He didn't do that. And so then the evidentiary hearing was canceled because he didn't pay. I continue to be the one who's impacted by this, and then I have to file the motion fees.
I understand.
Is there a way that I can also be reimbursed my motion fees?
Unfortunately, that's the process for now.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Yes.
So this speech therapy thing, I mean, obviously I care for my son's well-being and his health, and that's obviously my top priority. I have talked to Ms. Burns several different times as this speech therapy is no longer necessary. I mean, he's very advanced. And
well, why then you need to talk to the speech therapist.
Okay.
I mean, bottom line, each of you have the right to contact any and be involved with any provider that's providing services for your child. Schools, doctors, dentists, all of it. But that information is a discussion between you and that person. And then they can explain to you why they believe it's still necessary. Because they have to bill it under insurance, which means they have to kind of make sure that the treatment is necessary. You don't just keep going on something that's no longer necessary. So while your opinion may be that he no longer needs it, then you need to talk to the person that's actually doing the therapy to make sure that you understand why it's required or when there is a timeline to, because it might just be maintenance stuff too, as a speech therapist. Who knows?
And Your Honor, recently my son had an IEP review plan, and his father wasn't even present for that, so he can't,
Sir,
say
you
that
got to step up the game here, man. You said you want to be a father, then you need to be a father. Get to the IEPs. Ma'am, when you send him the receipts, sir, review the receipts. Once she hits that 908, you can calculate the 64% yourself. But you need to be involved with the schools. You need to be involved with the doctors. You just can't sit back and go on autopilot. That's not being a father. So get your butt in the game, okay? Go talk to the speech therapist, find out if it is necessary. And this shouldn't be necessary either. Sir, the two of you should be able to work this out. This is your child. Take care of it. The orders are what the orders are, all right? And she's right. She shouldn't have to come to court all this time. Because insurance companies can have a lag time of 6 months or more in trying to pay off the debts. So sometimes you don't know what the uninsured is for months. So take care, ma'am. I'll get this order for you and we'll get the money so that it's at least preserved. So that takes care of everything from 2020 through 2024.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, be
Sir, can you
involved with
further?
it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am actually very involved. But at the
Well,
same
you
time,
know,
so
have you
what
talked,
is,
when was the last time you talked to the speech therapist?
it's been a few months.
Okay,
Do you
then
know who his
yeah.
speech therapist is?
I'm not getting into this all right now. What does the $1,800 mean for me, and how do I make sure that it's being paid properly?
It's going to be part of the income withholding order. That's why I'm doing it, because it's automatically going to be paid. And it'll be
Understand that, but
preserved, which means
does that mean a certain dollar
it,
amount per
yeah,
paycheck?
it'll probably increase by the paycheck.
Okay.
All righty.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you,
Good.
sir.
Good. Well, good luck.
Thank
Have
you.
a good morning, everybody.